You make more money than you did 5 years ago. Maybe a lot more. You got the better job, the promotion, the raise. You stopped checking the price of every item at the grocery store. You finally upgraded the apartment. You replaced the car that sounded like it was negotiating its own retirement. By every normal definition, you are doing better. So, why does your bank account still look like nothing happened? Why does payday still feel like relief instead of progress? And why does earning more somehow make losing your income feel even scarier than it did when you earned less? Because there is a strange financial trap that almost nobody warns you about. Your income can go up while the amount of money that actually belongs to you goes down. And it has very little to do with being irresponsible. It happens because when your income rises, something else quietly rises with it. Your floor. Let me explain. A few years ago, a woman we'll call Rachel was making about $52,000 a year. She had a roommate, she drove an old Honda with one window that occasionally required emotional encouragement to close. She cooked most nights, her gym cost $25 a month, she flew economy, bought furniture slowly, and treated ordering delivery on a Tuesday like a minor financial event. Rachel didn't feel rich, but her life was cheap to maintain. Then she got a new job, $78,000. For the first time in her career, she felt like she'd crossed some invisible line. She wasn't struggling anymore. So she did what almost everyone does when they finally start earning decent money. She fixed the things that had been annoying her. First, the roommate. She rented her own apartment. Nothing crazy, just nicer. Then, the car. The Honda was getting old anyway, so she financed something newer. Then she switched gyms because the new one was closer to work. She started buying lunch more often because she was busy. She upgraded her phone. She subscribed to a few services she'd been thinking about. She started taking Uber when getting home late. None of these decisions felt reckless. That's important. There was no Lamborghini, no $8,000 handbag, no cocaine habit, no secret yacht. Just dozens of perfectly reasonable improvements. And about a year later, Rachel noticed something strange. She was making $26,000 more than before. But at the end of most months, she actually had less money left over. Her salary had climbed, but her life had climbed with it. This is usually called lifestyle inflation. But I think that phrase makes the problem sound too harmless, like your lifestyle is a balloon that accidentally got a little bigger. What is actually happening is more dangerous. I call it the expanding floor. Imagine your income as the ceiling above you, and underneath you is the minimum amount of money your current life requires every month. That's the floor. Rent, car payment, insurance, phone, subscriptions, memberships, food habits, childcare, debt, everything you've gradually turned from optional into normal. Most people spend their entire career trying to raise the ceiling. 60,000, 80,000, 100,000, 150. But almost nobody watches the floor. And if your ceiling rises by $1,000 a month while your floor rises by $900, you did not become $1,000 richer. You became $100 richer. You just became much better dressed while doing it. And this is why salary increases can feel weirdly disappointing. Before the raise, you imagine what the extra money will do. You'll save more, invest more, travel, finally build an emergency fund. Maybe stop feeling that small moment of panic when you open your banking app after a weekend. Then the raise arrives, and for a few months, life really does feel easier, until something fascinating happens inside your brain. The new life stops feeling new. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Humans are incredibly good at getting used to improvements, which is wonderful when something bad happens. It's financially inconvenient when something good happens. The first night in the nicer apartment feels incredible. 6 months later, it's just your apartment. The first week with the new car feels luxurious. A year later, it's the thing you're annoyed needs an oil change. The first time you order a $28 lunch without looking at the price, it feels like freedom. Eventually, it's Tuesday. And that's the problem. The pleasure disappears. The bill doesn't. Luxury has a short memory and a very long billing cycle. And once your brain has moved something into the category of normal, going backward feels much more painful than never upgrading in the first place. Think about air conditioning. If you've never had it, you might tolerate a hot apartment. Live with air conditioning for 5 years and then have it break in July. Suddenly, you're not experiencing the same temperature. You're experiencing a personal betrayal. Your brain doesn't judge your life against some objective standard. It judges your life against yesterday. That means every lifestyle upgrade does two things. It gives you something pleasant today, and it quietly changes what tomorrow needs to look like for you to feel okay. That's the expanding floor. And there is one particular type of expense that makes this trap dramatically worse. It's not expensive restaurants. It's not vacations. It's not even stupid purchases. We'll come back to it in a minute because first you need to see why earning more makes this happen almost automatically. Imagine you get a $15,000 raise tomorrow. What happens inside your head? You probably don't think, "Excellent, I will continue living exactly the same way and redirect every additional dollar into assets." You think, finally I can move. Finally, I can get rid of this car. Finally, I can stop taking the 6:20 a.m. flight. Finally, I can buy the better groceries. Finally, I can live like someone who earns this much money. That last sentence matters. Like someone who earns this much money. Income doesn't just change what you can afford, it changes what you think is appropriate for you. There is a strange identity tax that arrives with higher earnings. Someone earning $45,000 can drive an old car. Someone earning $120,000 starts wondering whether the old car makes sense anymore. Someone earning $50,000 is happy meeting friends at the neighborhood bar. Someone earning $150,000 slowly ends up in restaurants where the waiter explains the origin story of the carrot. Nothing dramatic happened. Your reference group changed. Your expectations changed. The places around you changed. And suddenly, expenses that once looked luxurious begin looking strangely reasonable. You don't say, "I'm inflating my lifestyle." You say, "I can afford it." And technically, you're right. That's what makes the trap work. You can afford almost every individual upgrade. The apartment? You can afford it. The car? You can afford it. The nicer vacation? Yes. The gym? Of course. The food delivery? Definitely. The subscriptions? They're $14. The problem isn't any single decision. It's what happens when all of them become your new floor. Think about your own life for a second. Seriously, think of the last time your income noticeably increased. Maybe you changed jobs, got promoted, started freelancing, paid off a loan, or simply started making more as your career progressed. Got it? Now ask yourself this. Within the next 6 months, what became normal that used to feel optional? A nicer apartment? More restaurants? Uber instead of public transportation? A better car? More trips? A different grocery store? A more expensive neighborhood? Subscriptions you barely notice anymore? Don't judge the answers, just notice them. Because that gap between your old normal and your new normal is where most raises disappear. And this brings us back to the expense I mentioned earlier. The most dangerous lifestyle upgrade is not the one that costs the most money. It's the one that becomes a recurring obligation. A $1,000 vacation costs you $1,000. A $300 increase in monthly rent costs you $3,600 this year. Then $3,600 next year, then the year after that. A nicer car doesn't just cost more at the dealership. It can mean a payment, more expensive insurance, more expensive maintenance, maybe more expensive parking. A membership doesn't cost $40. It costs $40 forever. Until the version of you who signed up for it remembers it exists. These are financial barnacles. One is nothing, then another appears, and another. Until your bank account is somehow financially supporting 12 streaming services, 3 software companies, a gym you visit twice a month, cloud storage you don't understand, and an app that sends you motivational quotes about simplifying your life. This is how the floor expands. Not with one enormous mistake, with permanent little decisions. And permanent expenses change something bigger than your monthly budget. They change your freedom. Take 2 people. Person A earns $65,000 a year and needs $2,700 a month to maintain their life. Person B earns $110,000 and needs $7,000. Who is richer? The obvious answer is person B. But now imagine both lose their jobs tomorrow. Person A can cut a few things and survive for a while. Person B has the nicer apartment, newer car, better lifestyle, and a much larger machine that requires money every 30 days just to keep running. This is the part nobody puts in the promotion announcement on LinkedIn. Higher income does not automatically create financial security. Sometimes it creates more expensive dependence on your next paycheck. You don't own the lifestyle. The lifestyle owns a piece of your future income. And suddenly, the job you once wanted becomes the job you cannot afford to leave. That's when lifestyle inflation stops being about money. It becomes about power. You tolerate the manager you hate. You delay changing careers. You don't take 3 months off. You can't walk away from a bad situation. Not because you're poor in the traditional sense, but because your monthly floor is sitting 6 inches below your ceiling. There's no room. And room is what money is supposed to buy. This is why someone making $150,000 can feel more financially trapped than they did making $70,000. They didn't fail to earn enough. They failed to keep enough distance between what they earn and what their life demands. Now, none of this means you should get a raise and continue living like a broke college student forever. That misses the point completely. Money is supposed to improve your life. Buy the apartment, take the trip, eat the good food. Please replace the mattress you've been complaining about since the Obama administration. The goal isn't to prevent lifestyle inflation, it's to make it intentional. Because there's a huge difference between choosing a better life and automatically building a more expensive one every time your income grows. A simple way to think about it is this. Every time your income increases, decide what percentage of the raise is allowed to become lifestyle before the lifestyle decides for you. Maybe you get an extra $1,000 a month after tax. Before you upgrade anything, you decide $400 becomes better life, $600 becomes more freedom. Now you can enjoy the raise. Upgrade something that genuinely matters to you. But your floor rises slower than your ceiling. That gap is where wealth begins. Not the salary number, the gap. There is another rule that helps. Be much more suspicious of permanent upgrades than temporary ones. A great dinner is over tomorrow. A vacation ends next week. But an extra $800 in monthly housing cost follows you home every single day. Before adding another recurring expense, ask one question. Would I still want to pay for this if my income dropped 20%? Not can I afford it today? Would I want this obligation if life changed? Because careers do change. Bonuses disappear. Companies restructure. Industries slow down. People burn out. And the lifestyle you build during your best year may still send invoices during your worst one. Rachel eventually realized this. Remember Rachel, the woman who went from $52,000 to $78,000 and somehow ended up with less money? Her first instinct was exactly what you'd expect. She thought she needed another raise. If she could just get to $90,000, everything would finally feel comfortable. Then she looked at her expenses. Not with the usual question, what can I cut? With a different question, what did I turn into normal? And the list was uncomfortable. Not because the things were ridiculous. Most of them were nice. That was the problem. She liked the apartment, liked the car, liked the convenience. She wasn't spending money on things she hated. She had simply converted almost every increase in income into an increase in the cost of being Rachel. So she didn't sell everything and move into a van. She changed one rule. The next time her income went up, her lifestyle wasn't allowed to consume the raise first. A year later, she got another promotion. This time, before she bought anything, she automatically increased the amount going into savings and investments. Then she upgraded one thing, a better vacation. That was it. And something strange happened. For the first time, a raise continued feeling like a raise months after she received it, because part of it was still there. That sounds almost embarrassingly obvious, but look around. Entire industries survive on the fact that humans are terrible at noticing a slowly rising floor. We notice the new salary immediately. We notice the new apartment immediately. We notice the new car immediately. We don't notice that our life now costs $1,800 more every month than it did 3 years ago. There is no notification. Your phone never says, "Congratulations, your definition of a normal life has increased by 37%.
It just happens, quietly, one upgrade at a time. Until one day, you're making more money than you ever imagined making, wondering why it still doesn't feel like enough. So if that feels familiar, don't start by asking how to earn another $10,000. Ask a more uncomfortable question. If I got another raise tomorrow, how much of it would still be mine 1 year from now? Because making more money is only half of the game. The other half is stopping your life from immediately developing an appetite for all of it. Your salary is the ceiling. Your lifestyle is the floor. And becoming wealthier isn't just about pushing the ceiling higher. It's about making sure the floor doesn't chase it all the way up. More money doesn't make you financially free. More space between what you earn and what your life requires does. And sometimes the person who finally feels rich isn't the person who got the biggest raise. It's the person who stopped needing every raise just to maintain the life they already built. Subscribe for more videos about the psychology behind money, status, work, and the decisions that quietly shape your life.